We start today in Puerto Rico, where Jeep has just revealed the fifth generation of their iconic Grand Cherokee, a favorite on the Puerto Rican market for the last 28 years. Our Christian Ramos was actually at that launch event and brings us this next story.
Classy with a wild side, that's the best description for the new Jeep Grand Cherokee L, the new SUV with 3-row seating of the Grand that is making its debut here in Puerto Rico.
That's how we call it. It's wildly civilized, right? So you're able to go on the wild side because you can get in the sand, the sun, sand, rock, and all type of terrain, right? Mud and that type of thing. But also you can do the civilized side because with all the luxury that it has in the interior and all the comforts, that it's also a vehicle that you can do on any type of terrain. And going with the luxury side and the way that the styling of the vehicle, it's just so different and so spectacular that's why we call it, you can be the wild and or either you can be civilized.
It's the fifth generation of the Jeep Grand Cherokee. What is different in this vehicle, in this model from the other ones?
So many things. I mean, even the inside, like for example, the radio, the new Uconnect system, it has also for safety, it has the night vision, it has the head-up display, has the family cam, which is what we call it, that inside you can see what's happening the second and third row. It's the first time that Jeep Grand Cherokee has a third row. So, and also the engine, the capacity, the towing, there's so many things that are just a class-leading vehicle. At the end of the day, the Grand Cherokee has been the vehicle that most prizes ever received, most awards. And we've been 28 years riding, the streets of the world. So we're very excited and very proud of the product that we have, especially for the people here in Puerto Rico that had made the vehicle the leader in sales for so many years. So thank you. We appreciate that.
Before the end of the year, Jeep is going to launch some other vehicles, including their electric fleet. Reporting from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Christian Ramos.
All right, thanks, Christian. Well, Barbados will commence its rollout of the Pfizer vaccine for children ages 12 to 18 on Friday. The commencement was made by the Minister of Education, who stated the decision was made after consultation with the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the umbrella body, the National Council of Parent-Teacher Associations. Now, the minister said several of the island's leading pediatricians were also consulted and have expressed their full support for the rollout of the vaccine, as Pfizer is the only COVID-19 vaccine approved by the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The minister said it would help with the return to face-to-face classes on the island.
At the Ministry of Education, we fully understand that while there are many parents and guardians who are ready to have their children vaccinated, there are also some who are still in the process of making that decision. For the latter, we will continue our public education efforts with the support of our public health officials, our pediatricians, and our parent-teachers associations. For those who are ready to vaccinate their children, commencing from Friday, the 27th of August, the Pfizer vaccine will be available to students ages 12 to 18 at 7 locations in the first instance. Barbadians, we've worn our masks and we've been socially distanced for quite a while. And now the time is here for us to continue our fight against COVID-19 by getting vaccinated. Remember, you aren't just protecting yourselves, but you are also protecting everyone around you.
And meantime, in New York, some teachers are pushing back against their own union over new vaccine mandates. Teachers were at the forefront of a rally in New York City on Wednesday, holding signs and speaking out against COVID vaccines. That's after New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced on Monday that all education staff must be vaccinated, setting a deadline for the end of September, when more than 148,000 education staff must have their first shot of COVID-19. First shot of the vaccine. You want me to restart? Hello? Meantime, in New York, some teachers are pushing back against their own union over new vaccine mandates. Teachers were at the forefront of a rally in New York City on Wednesday, holding signs and speaking out against COVID vaccines. That's after New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio announced Monday that all education staff must be vaccinated, setting a deadline for the end of September when more than 148,000 education staff must have their first COVID shot. Neighboring New Jersey and Connecticut also have made a vaccine mandate for educators. And as the world grapples with the spike in COVID-19 infections, Delta Airlines says it will charge employees on the company health plan extra money if they don't get vaccinated. Those employees will be charged $200 a month starting November 1st. The carrier said the high cost to cover employees who become hospitalized with COVID-19 caused them to make the change. Some bills can be, on average, over $50,000. At the end of September, COVID pay protection will only be provided to fully vaccinated employees experiencing a breakthrough infection. And in the state capitol, lawmakers and the Biden administration crafted the American Rescue Plan. Our Washington correspondent Matt Knadler is digging deeper for us to see how federal officials think that money should be spent.
The U.S. Treasury oversees just how state and local governments can spend the $350 billion they are receiving in American Rescue Plan relief money. Earlier this year, they offered interim guidance on those rules. We first brought you that story back June.
It's going to make it possible for an awful lot of educators, first responders, sanitation workers to go back to work.
So I reached out to the Treasury Department over the last week or so to see if those rules have changed. Officials declined an on-camera interview for our story, but a Treasury spokesperson tells me our local governments should continue relying on that interim rule as they begin receiving and spending their money. So we looked into the 39-page roadmap of sorts to see if Treasury and the Biden administration suggest local officials spend that money in one key area. And as it turns out, the list of eligible uses is actually pretty long and at points also pretty broad, with 4 main eligible use categories: public health and aid to those economically impacted by the pandemic, premium pay for essential workers, offsetting pandemic-related tax revenue losses in the last fiscal year, and infrastructure upgrades.
For 3,000 counties in America, we're seeing 3,000 different ideas about how to improve their residents' lives locally.
Mark Rattacco is with the National Association of Counties here in Washington, D.C. He says the language is intentionally vague because some counties were hit harder than others by COVID, meaning they will have different needs moving forward.
And that's what we are counting on all of America's 3,069 counties to do, which is to invest this money wisely and efficiently in these types of services that our residents say they need to be prosperous in the 21st century.
There are 2 areas where relief funds cannot be used: padding pension programs, and states and territories cannot use the money to cut taxes. Now, there is one other option for local and county governments to get the most bang for their buck: pooling their money together. If there's a local municipality that doesn't really have the need for the money they were given, can they give it to the county and almost earmark it for collectively, can they earmark it for an internet project, a broadband project?
Intergovernmental transfers are allowed in Treasury's interim final rule. Maybe a town or a city will transfer money to a county for a large broadband project, or a state, county, and a city would pool their money together to enter a public-private partnership with a local service provider.
Treasury officials tell me that of the $350 billion approved in the American Rescue Plan, over $230 billion has already been sent to states, territories, and localities. In Washington, Matt Knadler reporting.